on the Twitter timeline as of late, especially regarding the Palestine-Israel war.
Yeah, I guess that's the first topic that everyone's asking us to speak about.
So let's talk about it.
And a lot of people are interested in my opinion because I have been caught giving tens of thousands of dollars to the Palestinian people, mainly Palestinian children, Palestinian schools, people who will be casualties of this war. And I like to explain myself, not that I owe anyone an explanation as to who and where I put my money. It's my money. But second of all, as a Christian, I would like to explain why I'm donating so much money for infrastructure, food, and education in Palestine. First and foremost, those idiots who say, that's not real charity because the money's taken by Hamas. And one, I own the charity. I know where the money goes. It's my charity. I know where the money goes, and I only work with trusted people. One, first and foremost. Two, I guess the only real point I have to make besides it's my money, don't ask me questions, is as follows. This war, there's been civilians killed on both sides. There are civilians killed on both sides, and I detest the killing of any civilian, as do most men of God. Any civilian on either side. But the fact of the matter, the simple fact of the matter is this. When the fighting ends, if the fighting ends, there will still be Israeli children and there will be Palestinian children. Israeli children will have access to education. Israeli children will have running water. Israeli children will have food in their stomachs with all the might and money that Israel has and all the support it has from around the world, places like the United States. Whereas when this war is over, or if the fighting dies down, there will be Palestinian children who will not have access to education, who will not have access to clean drinking water, who will not have access to food. So I've decided to donate money to help those children out. In the very same way that regardless of what your opinions are on the Russia-Ukraine war, and everyone knows my opinions, I still, despite my dislike of the Ukrainian government and the money given to its regime, and despite my understanding of why the war actually happened, I went up to the border loads of times with food and coats and clothes because women and kids were being displaced and women and kids were coming across the border to Romania. So the women and kids needed my help. And I don't care if a child is a Hindu, a Jew, a Christian, a Muslim, or an atheist. If anywhere in the world there are children in lack of food, water, clean clothes, education, where possible, there will be Tristan Tate and his money. And don't tell me where to send my cash. Understand? That's all I really have to say on the topic, because I'm sick of people on Twitter talking to me.
Well, let's talk as professionals. And as a professional, even though I am seen as a beacon of intellect and knowledge, quite rightly, I'm also professional enough to understand when I don't understand everything. And the Middle East is an extremely complicated topic. Now, I understand the basics. I understand the 1967 borders. I understand the religious divides. I understand the holy sites. I understand there's some very interesting information about a pipeline which was tried to run through Syria, and they destabilized Syria on purpose to try and control oil and energy like it's always been about, because the world is always about money and power. I understand all of these things. But do I feel like I understand the entire conflict at a deep enough level to have a true, strong path towards peace? Do I understand every faction? Do I understand the differences between them all? Do I understand life on the ground? No. So let's talk in certainties. As a professional, I talk in certainties. It is certain that civilians will die. It is certain that children will starve. It is certain that there are people who know more than us behind the shadows who are orchestrating certain actions with very little regard for human life.
As always.
As always. It is certain that it is a chessboard, just like we have right here. And any capable chess player is prepared for a pawn to die if it allows them to win the game. That's what I do when I play chess. So the people who are in charge of the world do. It is also pretty clear to me that when anybody is instantly and absolutely galvanized into encouraging the genocide of any other nation or peoples, They have fallen deeply into a psyop. So when we look at the right-wing American freethinkers, let's look at our friend, Mr. Peterson, who's not a fan of ours. And I look forward to speaking to him one day. But when he says, give them hell,
Netanyahu.
give them hell, you are trying to advocate the genocide of millions of people.
Pawns who do not move pieces on the chessboard.
They have no power.
Innocent people who are just trying to go about and live their lives because somebody else has made a move on the board.
Is that fair to the person who gets bombed and loses their family? No. Same on the other side. The average Israeli, the average person who's living in a border town who gets shot, pawns on the chessboard. I'm smart enough to look at this situation and understand what's really happening, which is that I don't know, and none of the people with strong opinions truly know. I'm not going to lie. I do find it extremely suspicious that the most feared intelligence agency on earth didn't manage to detect an invasion.
On the 50th anniversary of another famous invasion.
It does seem a bit weird. Like, I'm sure if you were to take a remote control car, which could be a drone or a bomb, and try and drive it towards an Israeli checkpoint or the border, they would detect it and destroy it. But now we've had 500 pickup trucks full of dudes just burst over the border. That's weird. Now, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm highlighting that it's very strange. Now, once again, let's go back to my original assumptions. Let's say that it's a big chess game. And let's say a gap has been left, a pawn has been left to hang, so that when it dies, you can fork your opponent. Very common in chess. Makes more sense to me than the fact that Mossad failed to detect an entire invasion. I don't know. Let's also talk uncertainties. War, destruction, and uncertainty always leads to stricter controls from the regime. Always. Always come along and they take away your safety. Sorry, they take away your, let me apologize.
Freedom?
They always come along and take away your freedom to guarantee your safety. So perhaps, and we don't have to look at Palestine, Israel. We don't have to look at Ukraine, Russia. We can look anywhere. If a regime wanted more power over its citizens, the easiest way to do that would be to orchestrate an unsafe environment purposefully. They would purposefully make sure the society was not safe so they could come along with the solution. You make society sick so you can give it the medicine. I'm only talking in certainties. These are all certain facts that I know. And when you add all these things up and then you start to look at nearly any conflict on earth, you become pretty anti-war, and I find it extremely asinine and quite childish, hypocritical, and also disingenuous that people like Peterson will call for the genocide and call for war when truthfully, he would hate to be anywhere near a war. Jordan Peterson is not a soldier, and he's not capable of being a soldier. For him to sit and try and advocate destruction when he himself can't handle Twitter haters and needs absolute peace of mind, let alone peace of physicality, to sleep at night without drugs, I find that quite disingenuous. I also find it very short-sighted. So when I see all these people choosing sides, calling for the absolute destruction of the other, saying this team's completely wrong, that team's completely wrong, to me it's all just a huge psyop.